Thank you, Zainab, and also hello to all the other panelists. And a lot of them made some very, very good points, salient points. But as you know, our mantra has been, Zainab, as we met previously, that for us, climate finance actually equals to development finance. And for countries with low carbon footprint, in particular island economies, that climate finance actually means adaptation finance. So financing our development priorities and climate adaptation needs has never been an easy task. But COVID-19, of course, has made the task even more difficult and even more urgent. Without predictable source of finance, we face increasing exposure to risks in these unpredictable times. The global estimates for adaptation financing are expected to range from USD 140 billion to 300 billion per annum by 2030, and could rise to between USD 280 billion to 500 billion per annum by 2050. Fiji alone would require about 4.6 billion US dollars by 2030 to adequately ingrain adaptation and resilience into our development agenda. Achieving the global goal on adaptation set forth in the Paris Agreement is intrinsically linked to rapidly achieving significant global decarbonization, simply because greater climate mitigation today reduces the need for climate adaptation tomorrow. Every country must ensure the NDCs have a 2030 commitment that is consistent with what the science requires of us. This means no backsliding, no shortfalls, and no deferrals. The next 10 years will define the next 100 years. Fiji, of course, thanks the United States for rejoining the Paris Agreement with greater decarbonization commitments. And in fact, your leadership in global affairs, of course, defined history in many other instances, and we hope that it will put to work to solve the existential threat of climate change. Large emitting countries, including USA, should now commit to a 2050 net zero agenda. And our developed oceanic neighbors that have been silent in this space must now commit to bold decarbonization targets. In the lead up to COP26, Pacific Island developing states, and I'm sure other island developing states in the Caribbean and the Indian Ocean, strongly urge the UK COP26 presidency to give loss and damage the attention it requires and indeed deserves. It should not be diluted under the ambit of adaptation and resilience. Fiji fully understands that this is a red line issue for most developed countries, but we extend our full support to help the COP26 presidency find and mobilize the resources that will be needed in the spirit of the Warsaw International Mechanism on Loss and Damage. I'd like to just very quickly perhaps go on to some of the key points that we think that Fiji would like to urge the COP26 presidency. And indeed, I just want to take a side bar on this. We are working with the UK government to looking at issuing a blue bond. As you know, we've issued a green bond with the help of the World Bank a couple of years ago. It's now listed on the London Stock Exchange. But we know we are small countries but large oceanic nations, as they say. So we want to take advantage of the blue economy, and we're working with the UK government to issue some blue bonds. But I think some of the issues perhaps the COP26 presidency should look at, and other UNFCCC parties to take some specific critical actions. One, finalize Article 6 of the Paris Agreement so that we can create a stable source of revenue for the Adaptation Fund under Article 6.4 on Sustainable Development Mechanisms. The Adaptation Fund cannot continue to depend on ad hoc handouts to capitalize its coffers. Two, establish a formal process to set a definitive post-2025 goal on climate finance from a baseline of US 100 billion per year. This must include a standalone goal on adaptation finance to ensure that adequate support is provided to developing countries to implement their adaptation plans. Such goals must take into consideration the 2023 global stocktake, the latest science from the IPCC, global warming impact scenarios, and realized mitigation ambition. Last but not least, and very importantly, building on the Ocean Dialogue organized by the subsidiary body on scientific and technical advice, which SIPSTA, in December 2020. COP26 should establish a mandated process to incorporate oceans into the UNFCCC agenda. Financing for the climate and ocean nexus should be new and additional to the US $100 billion financing target and must be included in the post-2025 goal on climate finance. We, of course, seek support in this regard and for the entire oceans agenda in itself. So I think, I'd like to end my comments there then, because I mean now I should say, because I think there's a number of issues that has been highlighted. We can eke those out perhaps in the question and answer session, but I wanted to highlight those three key important points going forward.